My name is Terry Bartley, and I'm the Program Manager for JCI USA's brand new mental health program. Throughout the rest of this year on the JCI USA social media, you're going to see a number of programs being rolled out concerning mental health because we recognize it's a really important issue that we need to start talking about. With that said, in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month, which is this month, May, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my mental health journey. About a year and a half ago, I had just wrapped up my year as state president here in West Virginia, and we were planning our Outstanding Young West Virginians banquet. I was really excited to get to put my touch on it. I had a lot of really big ideas that I was excited to implement, so I basically took on just about all of it on my own. I found the venue, I helped us identify our nominees and get applications submitted, and put together presentations for the honorees, and I had plans to do more. Things like find the decorations and do the catering, and literally every single piece of it I thought I was going to do on my own. Needless to say, my state board was more than a little bit concerned about how this banquet was going to go. Every time we had a call, they'd ask me, how are you doing? How far along are you? Have you done this? Have you done that? Just providing basic accountability, which is totally fine. But for some reason, whenever they asked me about these things, it felt to me like I was being picked on. Like they were sort of hammering down all of my flaws at the exact same time. And I felt like they were all against me, like I was being put down. But as I said, they had every reason to be concerned. I took on way too much on my own. The people that live locally, I didn't want to ask for help because I didn't want to inconvenience them. And the people that were offering to help me lived over 3 hours away, so I felt like I'd be inconveniencing them to accept their offers of help. So basically, I wasn't doing any of that. I was just taking all of it on my own. It was obviously too big of a job, way too big for me by myself anyway, but I didn't see it that way. I didn't want to bother anyone else, so I put all of it on me. Cut to 2 hours before the actual banquet, all of my board members from across the state came into the banquet hall and saw me literally dragging tables into the right position still. And at that point, not only did I gladly accept their help, I was freaking out because there were other things that I had forgotten to do. Big shocker. So I just walked out of there to take care of other business while they basically did all the work that I should have been doing to begin with. Now I tell you all of this because it pushed me to a place that helped me identify some problems that were happening in my life that honestly had been going on forever, but it was never to this extent. This was sort of the worst it had been because of all the responsibilities that I had as state president, and honestly like 100 more that I put on myself. About a week after the banquet, I was browsing YouTube like you do, and I stumbled onto a video about a concept called the Wall of Offal. So this concept is basically this idea that whenever you don't want to do a thing, or you can't convince yourself to do a thing, keep feeling bad about it, and you feel worse about it, and somebody tells you that you need to do it, so then you feel even worse about it, and it keeps building up until it's something that you can't even do. Like, you can't even fathom doing this thing because you convince yourself that you're so bad at it, or you can't do it, or or people will hate you if you do it, or they hate you because you haven't done it. It's this never-ending cycle of negativity that makes it impossible to do the most basic thing, not to even mention difficult things. So for me, this concept sounded so familiar to what I was going through leading up to the banquet. I related to this video so hardcore that I glanced at the channel that it was a part of, and I noticed that it was a channel about ADHD. I went to the channel, I noticed that they had a video called, How Do You Know If You Have ADHD, or Do I Have ADHD, something along those lines, and I was like, maybe I should watch that. So I did, and in the video it talked about all these symptoms of ADHD. Things like losing things on the regular, things like leaving your keys behind before you leave the house, changing your long-term goals every couple years if you even have long-term goals, starting at projects that you never finish, and committing yourself to so many projects that that's why you don't finish them. At the end of the video, I was like, yeah, this sounds like it could be me. So I ended up seeking out a therapist. We started this process of getting diagnosed where I had to call my insurance company, find a firm that even does that kind of thing, take a test to see if I did have ADHD, receive an official diagnosis, and then finally start the actual process of learning how to deal with this. Now, for me, this was crazy because we all know that ADHD is a thing that you typically get diagnosed with as a kid, but I never knew that I had this. Looking back, it makes a lot of sense. It explains a whole lot about the way I operated in high school and in college. I always did really well whenever I had structure in my life, but whenever that structure was a little more freeform, I loved it because I had so much more freedom, but I rarely actually did things that I was supposed to be doing. I often found myself going down really fun paths for projects that ended up turning into things that weren't at all relevant to what I was supposed to be working on, which is a classic sign of ADHD, but I didn't know that. But I gotta say, receiving a diagnosis for a mental health disorder, and then receiving actual treatment and learning ways to cope with that mental health disorder has made my life markedly better. And it's not because I'm magically fixed or that medication just makes me not ADHD anymore. It's because I have an understanding of how my mind works and why I tend to make the kind of mistakes that other people make, but at a far greater frequency. It allows me to forgive myself. And that's one of the most important things that diagnosis does for you, is it allows you to give yourself a little bit more patience and understanding and not beat yourself down all the time, which I was doing all the time. But now I know that whenever I take on a project, I have to delegate things and I have to be willing to ask for help, which is one of the main reasons why whenever we started this mental health program, I told MVP Danielle that I was happy to do it, but I need to form a committee to have people that can help me with this. Because I knew that if I worked by myself, I was going to do too much work and not really accomplish much of any of it. Which leads me to the next part of this video. The reason I'm telling this story is not just so you guys can hear my story, but also so that I can encourage all of you out there to talk about how the JCs has helped you either identify or cope with mental health issues. I'm so grateful for the leadership opportunities that the JCs provides, because I wouldn't have wanted to figure out for a job that I got paid for that I had a mental barrier for things like accountability. My JC family not only swooped in and took care of the banquet whenever I really dropped the ball, but they were also there to support me whenever I figured out why all this was happening. So yeah, tell us your stories. Tell us how the JCs have helped you, how they've supported you, how maybe just given you a stronger support system with some better friends. And then make sure to put the hashtag JCing you through. Thank you so much for watching and have a great Mental Health Awareness Month.